Yeah, live. We're live.
There you go, Pete.
Work away, Pete. Is he frozen?
Oh, jeez, that time he's fucking frozen, is he?
He's gone, is he?
Oi.
That's a fucking great start.
Yeah, brilliant start, Pete. Go on.
No, he's
Oh,
gone.
jeez. Is he gone?
Yeah, he is.
Oh my God! Look at this. What a start to this.
What a start.
Hold on, Peter Martin. Let's talk about something until he comes back in. Right, folks. I'll do the quick intro, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys. You're very welcome to tonight's Frozen edition. You know, we can all do. You know, who's the character of Frozen? Elsa. Peter Martin is doing the best impression of Elsa here for our live studio gig. Hold on, he might be coming back in. No, he's gone.
Bye, Pete.
Where is he? He's gone.
He's gone.
Right, folks, here we go. With me this evening, Peter Martin was due to host, but he's actually gone. He dropped out. Hopefully he comes back in any moment of time now. With me is Matt Boland. We have Mike Reedy. Hold on. Is he coming? No, he's not there. Danny Brosnan is with us, and our very special guest is Mr. Brett Igo. Brett, how the hell are you? Are you well in yourself?
Great, guys. Great to see you. Great to be on.
Yeah, Brett, do you want to tell the folks, we were talking about it off air, but we're now live. Do you want to tell the group, you know, how today went for you? I know you had a bit of an issue with your car and your out half, but tell the folks what went on today with you.
Yeah, look, we played Munster Schools today. Great game up in Donnybrook. Munster came out 10 points winners. So I'm a bit sore, I'm a bit sad today, but look, we'll get over it. We got to play Ulster on Sunday up in Belfast. So a win there wins us the Interpros. So it's still in our hands, sort of thing. But look, it's always sore if Munster come up to Donnybrook. And I won't say snatch a win. They deserve to win. In fairness to them, I'm quite. I wish them well. They were very good. They were really, really good.
I tell you,
I was just saying to the lads, we're now seeing the first generation of pro players. We're now seeing their kids now playing. So we have Keith Woods, young lad Tom, played for Munster today. He played at 10, which is probably with the position his dad always wanted to play himself. But that's it's just fantastic to see. And also, I've heard of other players who are coming up through the ranks as well, who are now our former pro players whose kids are now 16, 17, 18. So it's yeah, Irish rugby's in a good place.
Well, go on, but so who else is coming up, Brett? I'm intrigued. What other?
Well, I know Reggie Corrigan has a young lad coming up. I know Shane Byrne had his two daughters play for Leinster under 18s last year, because they used to bump Shane up in the car park in Donnybrook when he was dropping the two girls out. Jackie O'Brien's, who is a former pro back rower for Leinster, his daughter's playing on the under 18s. I've seen photographs of John Hayes' daughters playing for the Munster 18s as well. So we're now beginning to see these guys who've got they've been going to Lansdowne Road since we're little guys in earmuffs, you know. So it's great to see. Great to see.
Wait until Sexton's kids start getting going.
I'm hearing Alan Quinlan's young lad is supposed to be a great rugby player.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
But I'm gonna disappoint the Munster fans and say I think he goes to St. Mary's College. So I think he's now. I think
Get in.
Our selection. I think
gets in. Actually, Brett, do you have any connection with St. Mary's Rugby?
I don't know.
All right. Okay. No. I know the fella who's high up there in the rugby.
All right.
Just thought if you did know someone, I was going to ask him, did you know him and all that? You know, the typical Irish thing. Oh, do you know your man whose cousin twice removed who fell over the dog who lived next door to your one? Do you know him? Remember him?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Right now, let's go back to the games that happened. One game. Hold on, I hear a little beep. Is this our host coming back in? It is too. Yes, here he is.
Here he is.
Slight disaster there.
Good evening, Mr. Martin again.
Good evening, Mr. Martin. How the hell are you? Now come here.
I'm amazing.
I know.
I'm amazing.
I did an intro, and I just asked Brett about how his day went, and we were about to go into the rugby games, but go on, take over, go for it.
Okay, super stuff. Right, well, the agenda we have for this evening, everybody, is the weekend's games. So I suppose starting off we had the big clash of the Titans, I suppose. Springboks versus the All Blacks. Brett, there you go. Did you manage to see the game?
Did, yeah. Of course he is. You're not going to miss that one.
No, you're not.
And give me your thoughts of what happened in it and the main points out of it.
Yeah, I just thought the Springbok just blew the All Blacks away. I think the All Blacks really struggled with that really hard outside press in defence that the South Africans are actually shown. I think they really struggled to try and get around it. There is a moment of that scrum which seems to be all over social media now at the moment of the South African scrum, which it was actually just awesome to look at, and it leaves the All Blacks now asking a few questions of themselves. How are they going to deal with that power? Like I know Barrett went off through that 2 yellow cards, but I'm not too sure New Zealand have the answer. And to be honest, I'm not too sure too many teams are going to have the answer to it. It's awesome. They have.
Yeah, do you know what? I tend to agree with you, Brett. I tend to agree with you. Yeah, who is going to challenge South Africa up front? There you go. Sorry, pick one.
Yeah, Danny Brosnan, did you see the game?
Danny, you awake? Wakey.
Danny, you doing a fucking dramatic pause again here? Or are you going to?
I'm awake. Jesus Christ almighty tonight. Sorry, I didn't hear what the question was. Sorry.
I think at times.
You didn't hear what the question was. Brosnan, hello.
Hey, don't give me sit now. What the question is because it's frozen here for a minute. No, I didn't see the South Africa New Zealand game, to be honest with you. So
right,
I'll leave it continue.
Moving very quickly on.
Yeah, I watched it. It was actually on Sky Sports Mix, which I have because normally I can't see any of them games. But yeah, I watched it, and yeah, look, I mean, South Africa blew them away. I mean, like to keep New Zealand scoreless for pretty much 90% of the match is just phenomenal. They're just their power was unreal. Not too sure I agree with the seven forwards on the bench.
We'll come to that.
All right, fair enough. But I tell you, like the only good thing that came out of that match was that young lad for New Zealand. That solo try he scored.
Roygaard.
That's him. Cam, like, saved and complete embarrassment for the All Blacks because they were hopeless. Their discipline was shocking. Their penalty count, their handling, the handle. Like I've never seen a New Zealand team handle so poor in my whole life. I'm not that old. I'm 41, but like Jesus Christ, they were pathetic. They really were. And teams looking at that match now, like because that was the clash of the Titans before the World Cup. It really was like looking at New Zealand. Nobody's going to fear them, and I think France could take a scalp at them in the first game.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure. Mike Reid, did you see the game?
I did indeed, yeah. I'm not going to lie. I did fancy South Africa to win that game, but I never ever anticipated what was going to happen. It was men against boys basically, and absolutely every aspect of that game, New Zealand were substandard. Everything. Their scrum was dismantled. Their line-out was a shambles. Balling, open play was they offered absolutely nothing. Do you know what? I actually took a decision last night. I thought they can't really be. South Africa can't really have improved that much since we played them in November. So I watched the South Africa or the Ireland South Africa game, the November one. I watched it last night, and they were actually a lot better than I remember them being. By the way, South Africa were in November. They were as physical as they were against the All Blacks. We fronted up against them, which the All Blacks simply didn't. And I mean, Scott Barrett obviously got a rush of blood, and he was probably fortunate that it wasn't a red card. But that being said, he didn't make contact with the head apparently, so that's the reason it wasn't given as a red card. But I couldn't believe what I was watching, to tell you the truth, because I watched the All Blacks box game in the Nations Cup or whatever the championship, and It was complete opposite. Well, it was only for the first 20 minutes, to be fair. New Zealand came out and scored 3 quick-fire tries, and then South Africa fronted them up in the second half. But they're a formidable outfit now, South Africa. They really are, and I couldn't see that like even 3 months ago. I thought they had no chance in the World Cup. They have every chance. It's going to take a good team to beat them.
Sure. Peter Burke.
No.
Did you see the game?
Yes, I did. Yeah, what a fucking rubbish display by New Zealand. And there's one thing that you said, Brett. What team is going to beat South Africa up front? I don't know. Anyway, to go back to that's another train of thought I was having there. Like, if you look at it, the All Blacks record losses, right? They lost by 21 points in 1999. Same margin again in 2019. This time around, the record loss for them, the final score being 35-7. I just thought, and by the way, Scott Barrett, that decision by that referee, I can't remember his name or who was ref, and I was watching so much rugby over the weekend. That was a straight red. There was no need for a second yellow. The straight red, off you go. Good luck, Scott. It was a low hit, no wrap. You were so low to the ground. You went elbow straight to the chin, head area. You're off. Good luck. Red. He should have got a ban, couple of games ban, at least for that. I thought that was a disgraceful decision. World Rugby and the Six Nations convening committee, whoever looks after the sighting, are doing themselves no favors. There's no consistency. That was a ridiculous decision. Sexton gets a ban for verbals. Fagerson gets a similar ban for a shoulder charge, and then your man, whoever it was, who's gone through, the other fella who went off, Moala. Like, there's just no consistency. Anyway, I'm digressing, as we tend to do, Brett. You'll notice we shoot off on tangents every so often here. Right. But I thought the one person who did surprise me was Libbok, who I always slate on this show as being a spoofer. He kicked 5 of his kicks. It's going, Jesus Christ, what's going on with Libbok? Has he taken something? But overall, South Africa were good, but let's not lose sight of the fact that these are warm-up games. Most teams empty their bench in the last quarter, if not beforehand. So I don't know how much we gauge from this. It's like the English game, which we'll talk about later. The Irish game against Samoa. Are they showing weaknesses, or are they just trying different things that aren't working, or what? Don't forget, they are warm-up games. It's not the World Cup just yet, but there you go.
Okay, I managed to see a bit of the game myself, and I suppose, Brett, coming back to the I'm going to echo everything that everyone else has kind of said. I suppose, Brett, a question for you, and I suppose as in your position as under-18 coach with Leinster schools, you're at the coalface, you're seeing the kids coming through. Yeah, they're not kids, they're men coming through, and the 7-1 bench that South Africa supposedly just dropped in at the final minute, just as a kind of an experiment, whatever way you want, whatever spin you want to put on it. Is there a space? Are we looking at perhaps in the next couple of years where the bench in rugby will have front row specialists and everyone else it'll be whatever you're having yourself? Will there be hybrid players like we see Botia for Fiji, we've Makalou for France? These guys who can basically fit anywhere. Do you feel is that happening perhaps already at the group you're working with, or do you see it happening?
Yeah, look, I don't see this. I actually thought the controversy was unbelievable, and I've a former colleague of mine going on radio and saying this is a disgrace. I don't believe it is a disgrace. I think your bench is there to overcome injuries in certain positions. So we have a rake of specialist positions. So the obvious one is obviously you've got to have a loose head, a tight head, and a hooker. So you have to have a full front row replacement. And as far as I'm aware, that's the laws of the game. That's what you have to do. If South Africa decided to roll the dice and say, listen, we're actually going to put another 4 forwards on our bench, that's their issue. But if they lose a winger, or they lose a scrum half or an out half, they're looking at this going, hold on a minute, what's happening here? Now, those players are they've obviously done their homework on this. Though I think the reason why they moved to 7, I think, was that Willie LaRue got injured, so they just pulled an extra forward in. But that's up to them. But practically, they could get found out when the tide goes out and find out they've no swimming togs on. Because if they lose 2 backs in the first half of a game, you're going to have to fill that with forwards. But we do have this hybrid player like Macalou is probably the great example, who seemingly is the fastest player in the French squad, which is incredible for someone who traditionally is a back rower. Yeah, I think that's a huge benefit for a team if you can do that. So, for example, if we're looking at schoolboy rugby, we're looking for someone that can cover 9, someone that can cover 10, 12, and someone that can cover the back 3. Now, if you've got a player like, say, Crawley for Munster is a great example, because he can cover 10 to a pretty high level, 12 to a very, very high level, and he can also cover 15. Like, he's a fantastic player to have in a World Cup squad, because in games like Romania, he's well able to do that. He's probably well able to play against those South African teams too, because he's proved that for Munster. But these players, these hybrid players, are massive. Like Ryan Baird is a hybrid player. He can play both locks and he can play at the back row. I'm not sure he can play 7, but he could have a pretty good go at it. And I think, look, I think that's a huge bonus. But I think it was blown out of all proportion, this whole 7-1 sort of thing, because I don't believe who do we have? 64 games in the World Cup. I would be surprised if we have 64 games where one game has come at a 7-1. I'd be shocked, because coaches, they're not stupid. You know, they'll have covered all options, you know, of what they're going to go on. But in terms of, like, I read the Irish Times talking about safety. The only safety issue is the front row. It's not.
Yeah, but sure, Brett, who started all this bloody 7-1 shite on the bench? Who started all this? The ex-Scotland coach, Scotland coach, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody did. He did, though. He was betting all about it. And someone,
the management of the South African team were the first ones to do it.
He did it, but he highlighted and he said, the World Rugby would want to look at this, and it's so bad. I
don't agree with that. The coaches are there. You've got to cover injuries, but you've also got the coach's prerogative in terms of a tactical shift of your team, and you put on subs to make tactical shifts. Now, their tactical shift was, okay, we're going to bring 7 on, but it'd be very brave to sit in a World Cup game against Scotland or sit a game against Ireland and go 7-1, and someone to say, hold on a minute, there's a centre gone down, there's now a fullback gone down, how are we covering it?
Yeah.
And
I agree with you, Brett. I totally agree with you.
Ireland play, it's generally a centre. It's either Aki or Henshaw as number 23. Why do they do that? Because they know Gary Ringrose can play on the wing, and he can play 13. He knows the other lads can cover 13, and then he knows that he moves Hansen back. So these are definitely live conversations. For example, rugby league coaches will sit in their coaching box, and they'll have a computer screen in front of them, and they will just press the screen and go injury to number 13, and then they'll have all the options. What are their options? So the options will be, we move someone in positions they're currently on the field, or then we move someone off the bench. If South Africa are brave to do that, wow. It would be incredible to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
Can I ask you a question, Brett? Now, seeing as you're involved in the front line of rugby, is it compulsory to actually name, say, a front row player, a specific, say you have your two squads of 3? Is it compulsory to name an alternative to a tight head, a loose head?
Yeah. So what you've got to do on the team sheet, your manager's got to write down H behind anyone who can play hooker. So they stick the H, then LH, and then TH beside those 3 names get covered.
Because it obviously happened us in Murrayfield, and Keane Healy was the designated.
So they would have had
hooker, apparently.
They actually would have had all 3 beside him: loose head, tight head, and hooker. So they were able to bring someone on, because we saw the Italians, when you run out of front row replacements, you've got to take people off. So there's problems behind it. But you have to, all managers or coaches would have to designate, and there's there's fourth, fifth officials. There's so many officials around the game now. It's just incredible, especially at the top end. And they're sitting there. The paperwork has to be done.
Yeah, just see there. We've got questions coming in from our Facebook watchers and listeners. Brett, we have a question there from Ricky Boyd. Can Ireland deal with that power game? It's going to take a massive effort. I suppose we can't really we can't meet it really head on. But can we? Are we clever enough? Do we have enough in the rugby IQ between Farrell and the players in the pitch to come up with something that kind of negates the power a little bit? Do you feel?
Yeah, I think we're clever enough. I think we've a very clever coaching group. I think we've incredible IP with the players we have on their field as well. I think like we're talking about that South African game. That's game 4. Where are we at game 4? That's what I would like to know. And again, we can't see into the future. How many bodies do we have standing at game 4? You know, we'll have played South Africa. I think it's 12 days or 13 days before. Or sorry. We played for Scotland then on that. Sorry, South Africa's game 3 and Scotland's game 4. So how fit are we going into that? So for example, I'd be concerned if we don't have our 2 starting props. So if Furlong or Porter aren't available for that game, I would have a real worry. I also worry about the backup on the bench, especially in the front row that come on to scrummage against that South African team, because I think we will struggle in that area. I don't think we're particularly strong. I think if you look at Porter in particular, I think he's averaged in the Six Nations 71 minutes per game.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think when you go with everyone's it's desperately sad Cian Healy's gone, but on the grand scheme of things, Cian Healy was averaging around 9 minutes, which isn't a whole lot of time. So I won't say that Farrell has a lack of trust, but he wants to
lack of options.
Get every minute out of Porter as much as he possibly can, because he probably doesn't have that bench. I think if you're going to beat South Africa, you need a 1-23 effort. And I think if you're relying on the 2 lads to do the job, they will do a job. There's no 2 ways about it. They'll do a job. They have done a job in the past. But it's what happens in that last 20 minutes. If they're going to roll off the bomb squad at that stage, we've got to actually match it. And that I'm not sure we have that match. So to answer
Sorry, go on. Sorry, Brett. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask you a question. We had, I don't know if you saw the show, we had Victor Costello on here last week or the week before, whatever it was. And he was saying you're not, at a World Cup or in the Six Nations, you're not going to get any fitter. But the key thing is for players when you're going into a tournament like this is the mental attitude. Is that something you see at the level you're coaching at? And also, would you agree with what Victor was saying?
Yeah, I totally agree with him. I think the mental part of the game, I'm nearly sure we don't see World Cup reviews at the end of each tournament. We don't see the document, the physical document that gets handed to the performance director, say, well, why was the World Cup successful, or why was it a failure in probably most of our World Cups at this stage? But one of the things, we get sound bites. That's all we get. So one of the big sound bites the last World Cup was the mental preparation of the team. Now, it's obviously something that's been highlighted. Now, we don't have the detail behind that, but the mental part of the game is absolutely massive. And we go and have a look at Leinster versus La Rochelle is a classic example. Like, we go out, we blitz them for 20 minutes, we go 17-0 up, and then there's just a mental implosion of massive proportion. You know, the mental part of the game is just absolutely massive.
I prefer not to talk about that. I prefer not to talk about that, Brett. I prefer not to talk about that.
But I find
kind of raw.
Get over it, Pete.
Yeah, so look, the mental side of things is absolutely massive, and we just I know I think they're using Gary Keegan as their sport mind coach or whatever he is. He's a former.
He's supposed to be unbelievable, by the way.
Former boxing, high performance boxing. Yeah. He was involved in all those medals for Irish boxing. So he seems to be pretty clued into what they're doing. But also, I think Farrell is a very good mind coach as well. I think Farrell, obviously I'm not sitting in the change room or anything like that, but he's someone that seems to be pretty switched on. He's been in a World Cup final dressing room. He's been on the England team in 07. He's been through that Wigan stuff, British Lions. We're very lucky. We have someone that's got massive experience to help the lads through this as well. So that's a huge plus, and it's one that I think we overlook at times.
Right, Brett. There's another question in from another Facebook user. We'll call them. I'd be tempted to hold Porter for game 3 and 4. I've seen it in the those questions put in the Irish Independent to the various different experts there, and they're asking the question: do we put out our best 15 against South Africa? And some of them are saying absolutely. We have to basically show that we're not weak, or whatever the case may be. But I suppose, are we better off doing something like that? Or are we just going to take it every game as it comes and then basically see where we are when we get to game 3, see where Scotland are? Because look, there's going to be probably upsets. What do you think about that? Do we
That's a great question. So the way I'd look at it is game 1 of the World Cup is France versus New Zealand. So whoever wins that game, we know have topped the group. It's no two ways about it. They will win every other game. That's what's going to happen. My guess is France will beat New Zealand, and I think New Zealand will come second in the group. Farrell and co and the players and the coaching staff need to make a decision there and then. Who do you want to play in the quarterfinal? And if you want to play France, you've got to come second. If you want to play New Zealand, you've got to top your group. I actually think we can take both of them. I think we're very competitive over the last few years against both of them. I wouldn't fear playing any of those. Definitely not. I think we've proven we're very competitive against those teams. But Farrell's got to make a decision where he wants to go. If I know Andy Farrell, I think he's going to be fully loaded to try and beat South Africa. Now that leaves you in a pretty tricky spot, because if you lose and you lose a lot of injuries, you're chasing your tail a bit against Scotland. But we don't know what state Scotland will be in at that stage, but it's kind of in your hands. Scotland are going to play South Africa. I think first game. I think South Africa will smash Scotland. I don't even think it'll be close.
Totally agree.
I just think Scotland. I think they'll arrive in an absolute turkey shoot against us in the last game, because even if we beat South Africa, we'll still be in a turkey shoot. Because they will have to win that game. They'll go all out to win it. And we could be sitting on 3 wins. South Africa could probably be sitting on 3 wins at that stage too. Scotland could be looking for their 3rd win. So we're in a horrible situation. So that last game is actually key. But I don't believe we'll concede a game or anything. We've got a 13-day turnaround between South Africa and Scotland, so we've got plenty of time. I think if we want to win a World Cup, I think we've got to put our cards on the table, and I think we put our cards on the table there. That would just be my view.
Brett, sorry, quick question, Brett. Sorry, Pete. Quick question, Brett.
Yeah.
Right, here we go.
Oh, here we go.
How do you rate Finn Russell?
Oh, Jesus.
You're still banging on about that.
Talking about Scotland, I'd love to hear what people in the know think of him. That's why I asked Victor Costello.
Not one of them have fucking said that in bed about him so far, Peter, by the way.
I'm going to say I don't.
Look, Peter, we all know you love Russell, okay?
Shut up, Russell.
Yeah, I'm not a Finn Russell fan. I just don't think he has. I think when you look at the moments of brilliance that we all see, and it gets replayed back, and I think it's great, and I love watching those sort of players. I think it's great to see that, but I think his negative column far outweighs the positive column, if that makes sense.
Yes, totally,
absolutely.
It's like some of the
Brett.
I'll tell you what I think.
Sorry, go on.
If you stop Finn Russell playing, if you keep the ball away from him, Scotland haven't got that much to offer. They play everything through him. They are totally dependent on him when he's on the pitch.
Yeah, definitely.
Without a doubt, they offer very little.
Yeah.
If you can nullify him, which Ireland did in the second half in Murrayfield, they haven't got that much to offer. That's a fact.
So, go on,
Very good. Right, we'll come back to Scotland. There's going to be the other games to roll on to. So, We had England versus Fiji there on the weekend, and personally watched most of the game, managed to see pretty much all the game, and was absolutely flipping delighted that Fiji bet them. Absolutely, I was almost jumping up and down.
Yeah.
Oh, you bad
One
boy.
of the things that kind of stuck out to me, and I was just looking for a bit of a stat because those who watch here regularly know that I love an old stat. And it showed that one of the things I spotted was that England conceded 6 penalties in the opposition half compared to Fiji, who just conceded 2. Brett, I'll come to you yourself again. Where do you see the issues for England being resolved ultimately? If that is too obvious a question.
How long have we got here? Because problems.
Don't have to.
I wasn't aware we could drink Heineken, but anyway, look, we'll go with I saw a Heineken flash up on my screen. I was like, oh.
It's always the way, always the way.
Product placement from Peter Burke.
Being a guest, I just said, no, I better not start drinking.
Get a beer or something, Brett. It's all, you know.
Okay, yeah. This is. They have so many problems. It is absolute a mess. What they of a union have done to themselves. They have a huge talent pool. Like without being too controversial, I'm kind of looking at the people that are running their game. We've had 3 clubs fold. We've sacked a coach, or they have sacked a coach. Who wasn't getting the best out of them either. I'm not saying they shouldn't have sacked him. They've now decided they're going to put in a coach with not a huge amount of experience. He's now surrounding himself with his Leicester mates, and again, not a vast amount of experience within them. These guys were decent players. There's no two ways about it. But coaching and playing are 2 different things. Leicester, if you remember, with that whole coaching staff, Leinster went over there and must have kicked the absolute shit out of them in a game, in a quarterfinal of a European Cup. And they played absolute dog shit rugby. And they have done for ages. Now, the English fans or the English people on this will say, oh, hold on, Leicester won a premiership. It's not about winning. Premierships and international rugby are totally different things. But they haven't surrounded themselves with a brains trust that can actually work a World Cup or a Six Nations. And I think this is what we're now seeing. They've got so many problems. Like their defense it's beyond horrific of how badly organized it is.
Sinfield is a spoofer.
But see, look, I had this conversation with a very prominent former international rugby player yesterday. Sinfield will get an easy ride in the media because of his outstanding work that he does, charity work that he does. And he's very popular on social media. He's a very popular person. And everyone kind of like his persona outside of rugby is absolutely, it's of the highest. There's people calling for the guy to be knighted. But we need to the English media and the English public need to park that and go, great, he's a great fellow, that's great. Let's judge him on his coaching and what he's delivering to the national team. And unfortunately for them, unfortunately for the rest of us, he is not delivering the goods. It's just not happening for them. And they need to go and have a good hard look at themselves. Are they going to solve the problem in 2 weeks' time? No. If the players circle the wagons and turn around and say, no, this is what we're doing, and I think that was the issue they had in 2007. They will. They'll beat Samoa. They'll get out of the group. They'll go into a quarterfinal. If they come second in their group, who do they play? I'm trying to think who they play. Do they play Australia?
Yeah, something like that. It's Australia or
Wales.
Australia or Fiji.
Or Fiji, sorry. They could end up getting Fiji again. They could get the RFU could be celebrating. They could get to a quarterfinal, semi-final because of where they actually are. But yeah, I think they've got massive problems. They have huge problems. But if the players continue to take that this is the defense we're going to do and this is the attack we're going to do, they'll struggle. They'll struggle against Fiji. Fiji, I thought were pretty well coached, pretty smart team. What they were doing, and they will cause England problems.
I think Samoa could cause them problems.
Yeah,
because Samoa will front them up physically, and they're better players than they have better players all over. And that's Kiwi that Samoa have got as their fly half has brought a different dimension to them altogether.
Very good, yeah. Really good.
But they'll be lucky if they get out of their group. That's as far as they're going to go. So
there's a great question gone in there, which I think we should bring up. My big fear is England is Raj gets the gig and restructures the whole coaching system and wins a couple of Grand Slams for the 2027. I think the world's fear is if someone of that quality, like we know Raj is obviously a quality coach. I'm not sure he'd suit the English system. That would be just a personal view on that. I think there's so much that he'd have to do to rectify it. But I think if whichever person you give the keys of the castle to, and if they've any sort of ambition and they have a clue what they're doing, I'd worry about it.
Well, I mean, Brett, but would O'Gara take the job? I know he expressed. I know he expressed an interest. No, you don't think so, Mike? No.
I would be absolutely shocked if he went anywhere near that job, and it's purely because he's not a lover of English. He's not a lover of England or English rugby, and never has been. He's made it quite obvious.
He's a lover of fucking making money. It's a job, isn't it?
He's going to make money. He'll be in France for as long as he wants to be. As long as he's successful there.
Again, at the end of the day, money talks. Like if he was to give a superior offer by the Eurofew, he'd be mad not to take it.
I think he'd be mad to take it. I think it's a poison chalice.
He would be, but who is to say that if they didn't offer him fucking stupid money that he wouldn't take it? Like money talks, and nobody knows what people are going to do under that situation. You say he'd never fucking coach England. But if they're really fucking serious,
well, Raj decision, he's got decisions to make, right? So the England RFU could probably offer him $1 million sterling, right? He can stay in France where he's probably on about 750, 800. So he's got a decision to make that the difference of the 200 grand, is it worth it for his own career where it could actually nosedive very quickly? Or does he back himself and say, for the extra 200 grand, I'm going to have to work my bollocks off and I'm going to be able to do this. And I'm going to make this a really, really successful job. Any coach with any sort of ambition, if England come knocking, you've got to seriously think of it. However, I don't believe Raj would take the England gig.
And there's also the thing, Raj is not a yes man. Raj is not a yes man. He wants, hierarchy wants somebody that's going to say, oh, yes, sir. I know Eddie Jones wasn't exactly either, but he was singing from their hymn sheet ultimately. Yeah. Which really fucking dragged his own ideals down. But they. But I tell you, Mike, couldn't see O'Gara ever doing that job.
But I tell you though, Mike and Brett, one of the quotes that O'Gara said about the English job was that he would be involved with class players. Now, on recent viewing, I don't know what players he's talking about.
Fucking not the ones we've been watching anyway.
No, I mean, like,
he was probably sign a Toje or someone.
Right, here's the question.
No, but here, hold on, Mike. Brett, I was watching that game, the England-Fiji game. I did not realise Toje was fucking playing until the camera went on to him after about 25 minutes.
Yeah, he's a shadow of his former self, isn't he?
He is, absolutely.
Here's the question. Have England got one player that had a game for Ireland, South Africa, or France, or the All Blacks?
Oh, probably one player, maybe Gange on the bench, and maybe Laws at a push.
Fair call. But outside,
something I've noticed about Itoje, when he was at his top, he was such a pest at the breakdown, and he was nearly on the infringement all the time and doing the dirty things. A bit like Richie McCaw. Then as soon as he stopped that, he's been non-existent.
He is non-existent. That's exactly.
Yeah.
I think what's happened there, though, what's happened there is that I think an awful lot of referees have cottoned onto him. And my own view in that is he was part of a Saracens team that were dominating everything. Like if you look at that England team under Jones a few years ago, when around 2019, 2020, the spine of that English team was all Saracens players. And I suppose it comes back to that thing about cohesion. on how, you know, all the good teams have got of a spine, a cohesive spine, decision makers, certain players in key positions that are doing, you know, do all the right things. That Saracens team and that English team, I mean, they were on a knife edge when it came to doing what they did. And I think when there was, I think what happened for me with Itoje is that, and in general with Saracens and all the Saracens player, is when they got relegated, it all went kind of south. I thought, for me, like, you know, they went into a different division, and I think fitness wasn't the big thing. I remember Lawrence Delalio said this on before. Delalio said, was asked, what's the difference between top players and international players? And he said fitness. And I think that was the major thing with Itoje, with the Saracens players. Even looking at Billy Vunipola, he's not fit. He looks like a slob on the pitch. He's just useless.
Hurtful.
Itoje, I think,
he goes
like
to
a fit mind,
McDonald's
fit
at
body,
half
all
time.
that kind of stuff. He's just getting the wrong side of the referee because his timing for doing what he does is out. It's just not on point, and that's
Now, is the knock-on effect what happened to Saracens players over the course of the warm-up games, Farrell and Vunipola?
You might do. But you're a big fan of Eddie Rockets, Pete.
You know, because they haven't got the pace to stick with the game.
There's a good point there, gentlemen. Brett, Rog would never be allowed back into Cork again if he took the England job and plays Ireland. JP McManus will match whatever the RFU will offer for Rog to coach Munster. I think he's a few stages to go before he comes back to Munster, though.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right,
okay. I don't see Rod's rushing back to Munster, to be honest with you, at the moment, at least, anyway. Besides with Roundtree there at the moment, I'd say Munster are happy with him, and Rod's is happy where he is in La Rochelle, because I think he's got that kind of legendary status with us that can hinder you as a coach as well, just since you have that.
He'll come back when he
there
wants
as a player as well. So yeah. But if he does come back,
he will. Let's say.
for us again.
Is Pete on again? Is he?
No, I think are you there, Peter? Peter
Yeah,
Martin.
it's for us again. Yeah.
Peter Martin, you're there. You're moving. He's moving. There's life.
Yeah. No, Martin throws up. Right.
Peter Martin, are you there? Jesus Christ, what's going on?
We'll move on to the Scotland Georgia match. Brett, we'll give you a rest from being first on this occasion. So, Peter, did you watch your favorite player?
I saw fucking bits of it, Pete. To be honest with you, because he was playing, I wasn't fucking interested. To be honest, I saw bits of it, not enough to form an opinion.
Yeah, I'm asking you, Peter Burke. Yes, I am. I don't know what's going on.
There's some delay there. No, you're asking me about the Scottish game, Pete.
Yeah.
Technical issues. All of you are making Peter Burke.
Yeah, no, I think this is the
No, you're asking me about the Scottish game. I didn't watch enough of it to form an opinion. I was in and out. Oh God, there he goes again. Jesus Christ. Here, we're going to have a fundraiser for Peter Martin's Wi-Fi at this stage.
To be fair to Martin now.
Are you complaining about my dodgy Wi-Fi?
We can't really give out to him just yet. He's not doing a Danny Brosnan on the just yet, where he fucking drops out every 2 fucking minutes. So we'll let Martin off this night alone.
Exactly.
Right, Mr. Burke, you take over. Did you watch? You didn't watch that game, so you have no opinion on it. Is that what you're saying?
No, the Scottish Georgia game. No, I saw bits and pieces, but not enough to form an opinion. So, Matt Boland, did you see it?
Didn't see it. So move on, lads.
Right, Mike Reedy.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Go on. What you think?
Right, Scotland in the first half. I thought, oh my God, what's going on here? You know, they're fucking getting like they just weren't in the game at all, and then they came out in the second half. That seems to be the Scottish way at the moment, the 40-minute team or something like that, because they can't seem to get it together for 80 minutes. But they steamrolled Georgia in the second half. They got 5 tries, and Scotland have decent players. By the way, they have decent players. They have a decent scrummage. So I don't know. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure they're going to be. There's too many teams, or like especially in the early games. like you'd imagine South Africa are too strong for them, but we'll wait and see, because they move the ball around well, and they run good lines. I mean, Hugh Jones and that Tui Pilato, they really run good lines, and they
and Van der Merwe, Mike, and Van der Merwe.
Oh, Van der Merwe, like
and Blair Kinghorn when he's on the pitch.
Van der Merwe doesn't tend to pass the ball though. He tends to run with the ball, and he's
South African. He wants to keep everything. They keep everything in South Africa.
No, Russell has a. I know you don't like him, Peter, but see the understanding he's got with Tui Pilato and Hugh Jones. They're formidable.
No,
I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you why. Look, I've said it before. Just to clarify, I don't like Finn Russell because of his inconsistency, and if he doesn't play well, the whole team doesn't play well. He has one good game out of every 5, and he very often shows he's disinterested in the match he's playing in if they're not playing well, and he just fires the ball out. He doesn't do any magic. I just think he's a spoofer. That's all. That's the only reason I'm saying that about Finn Russell. And Libbok is the same as everyone who watches this show knows. Libbok and Russell, and there's a few others we won't go into. It's not the time or the place. Sorry, go on, Pete.
But Scotland got the job done eventually, but we're good enough. We'll beat Scotland. We'll beat Scotland because we're a better team than them. It's as simple as that. And we're clever. We're more clever throughout the whole team. But South Africa, I will imagine, will as well. But whether they'll physically, they'll. I don't know if they can stand up to South Africa. But
no, they won't.
They won't.
Now, Georgia, I was a bit disappointed with them, to be honest, in the end. I thought they were going to offer more, and they don't seem to have. Now, everybody's shouting for them to be brought to the Six Nations and stuff, but I think we're a long way away from that still.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Go on, Pete. You back? No? Frozen?
Brett, just a question to question there to Brett. You know, we've seen Scotland come back. Am I gone again?
No, you're there.
Oh, you're there. Go on. You're there. Go on.
Keep going.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I gone again? I'm there. Okay. Just before I end up getting kicked off again.
No, we're still here now.
Question there for Brett. This is we saw the comeback victory that they had against Georgia, and we've seen them do something similar against France. Do you feel that, you know, Scotland are have built a bit of resilience into the team? Do you think Townsend has found something else to add to them, or is this just a question of they just run through they hold on to the ball, they run through their patterns, and they just get themselves back into it? Do you think there's something there? There's a bit more of a mental resilience or something there to Scotland?
Yeah, it's I'm trying to politically say the right thing because I obviously have been involved with Scotland.
Can anybody hear me?
Oh, just fucking say it. Go on.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so there's a number of things that's happened with them. So the 40-minute performance is like, it's absolutely embarrassing.
Oh, right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Brett, and we can hear you, Peter Martin, as well.
So the 40-minute performance is embarrassing. Like they're walking out, they're failing to show up.
Don't worry.
You know, they're not. They seem a bit disinterested, and then they realize, oh shit! Like we actually are on the pitch here. We have to play, and then when they play, they actually look okay. I agree with the two centers are very good. They're strong players, but they need to start asking questions about why do they not play for.
I'm here.
You got me? Yeah.
Yeah, Brett. Yeah, we can hear you.
No, I'm getting some feedback there. I was going, what's going on? Yeah, so that's one they've got to look at. I actually think they look miles better with Kinghorn at full 15 because I think Hogg was very hit and miss for them. I wondered, was he on some sort of deal that he had to get to 100 caps because it was it was beyond strange for the last Six Nations that he was actually playing. And if you actually go through the amount of times he dropped the ball over the line, the amount of times he made like simple 2-on-1s he failed to execute. He'd lost a rake of speed and what he was trying to do. But yeah, I actually think they look better than they have done. However, in this World Cup cycle, we've played them 5 times. We've beaten them 5 times. Do I think Scotland stand a chance against us? Against our first 15 or our first 23, there's no way Scotland will live with us as long as we play our normal game of the way we want to play. Will they beat South Africa? Not a chance. No way. I think the front 5 will be destroyed, and Russell will be against a beaten pack, which he doesn't like. So, and you see any of his top 14 games where people front up against Racing, he's gone. Like he's out the gate. So, look, that's last game for us. It is an absolute shoot into how we're actually going. I think World Cup games. I actually think the cards and red cards and the discipline thing will be a massive influence on this World Cup. So I think if it would have to take us to get a red card for Scotland to beat us. There, I've said it.
I'd agree.
Right, and come here. Sorry, Matt. Go on.
Yeah, no, just everything Brett said there. I agree 100%, and I think it'll take something drastic to happen to us in that game for Scotland to actually overcome us, like a red card or bad injuries or whatever the case may be. But I fully believe South Africa are going to pummel them in the first game, and we'll beat them comfortably.
Yeah, if we go our full team against their full team, it's not. Yeah. I'm going to say it's not even a contest. Yeah, Scotland might have their little moments in the sun, but ultimately over 80 minutes, like we've beaten them in the whole of Andy Farrell's cycle. We've actually beaten them, and we've beaten them.
Well, we also beat them when we lost 5 players in Murrayfield in the Six Nations.
This year, yeah.
And we lost we lost both of our hookers. We lost Ringrose for a finish. We lost Ian Henderson. Was it Ian Henderson or one of the locks?
That's something that's come with this Ireland team that we haven't seen before is pure resilience. Because years ago, when Ireland got things happened like that, where they went behind in games or they got bad injuries, they just put their heads down. And this is a different Ireland. This is the team that want to win every game they play. And it doesn't matter what happens on the pitch, who gets injured or who goes off or when they go down. They show the resilience to stay in the game, stick to the game plan, and come through and win.
Well, we've won 3 matches in the last 6 months or within the last year that we would have lost like years ago.
100%.
We won against South Africa when we didn't play particularly well. And we lost Tyke Furlong at half time in that game, and Finlay Bealham came in and we actually won 3 scrum penalties in the second half of that game against South Africa.
If you look at that Scotland game that we played in Murrayfield, the Six Nations, if that happened to an Ireland team a couple of years ago, we'd have been pummeled. We'd have been trounced in Murrayfield. But the fact,
hold on, gentlemen, Matt, Mike, Brett, Danny, Pete, let me ask you a question. Is it the right tactic that Ireland, we as a team, Andy Farrell and coaching staff, is it a correct tactic that we go out to win every game?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
If you get the point I'm trying to make with
100%.
Tactical play. So we should go out and win every game.
Absolutely.
That's what might happen.
100%.
You should go out to win every game.
Yeah, that's the mindset.
And World Cup is about getting through the group stages, and then it's knockout rugby. And if you have a mindset of not going out to win your games at that point, you'll go home. You need to win every game. End of story.
Okay. That's
like
really
there's the old saying, like, winning is a habit. We're getting to a stage where we've actually forgotten how to lose, if that makes sense. Like,
true.
Like our last 4 games, including, I know 3 warm-ups. I know people go, oh, the warm-ups. I know that the warm-ups are basically to I actually don't believe they're a selection thing. I think they're an S&C thing. I think it's a conditioning exercise most of the time. But our last 4 games, we've huffed and puffed a bit at stages of the games. So our last Six Nations game against England, and then these 3 warm-up games. But we've found ways of winning. And I think
Well-
that's what's something that this team, and it's something that whether it be Andy Farrell or Paul O'Connell or whoever, they've installed this into these players. We're struggling to actually find ways to lose, if that makes sense. And I just think we're in such a good place that I think when you get to those little bits of adversity that they get, whether your hooker goes down or we get a red card, I actually think we'll find a way. I think we definitely find a way. But it's when you actually lose that game, what happens next? So what happens if South Africa were to beat us and they beat us by 10, if they beat us by 15, okay, that would be a pretty big loss for the number one team in the world. If they beat us by a point, so be it. It's a toss of a coin sort of thing. But if we take a severe beating, it's how are we fixed for the next game? And I think that's going to be a big mental challenge, which I know you've asked me the mental question already, but that will be a mental challenge for this group because they've now got themselves in a position where they're finding it hard to find ways to lose games.
We've won 3 games in the last few months. We won against South Africa. We won against Australia when we didn't play at all, and we won against Samoa the other day. Now we didn't really turn up for that game for the first half anyway. But we still, it's like you said, Brett. We have found a way to win games without playing when we're not playing well, and we still have the resilience and the nous to turn games around. And we also have the skill set. Like we've got a very skillful group of players, and I think that alone will stand us in good stead against South Africa. They can come with all their 7 fucking back forwards, replacement forwards. That won't work against us. That will not work against us. And I'm not as concerned.
Why not, though, Mike? I think it will. But why do you think it won't?
Because we fronted him up. See when we played him in November.
I know that. Okay.
And we fronted him up physically. Now they battered us for probably 20 minutes of the first half. We were actually camped in our own half for the entire first half, and we fronted them up physically, and they couldn't cross the line. They weren't able to get over the line, and that set them back. Now, New Zealand against South Africa the other night folded basically. They threw the towel in early, and South Africa just ran through them like a dose of sauce. It was embarrassing. But whether that's the All Blacks not showing their hand and South Africa are obviously showing theirs, I'm surprised South Africa picking 7 replacement forwards. I mean, is that not something you'd hold back if that was a plan you had for the World Cup? Why would you show your hand?
I think that was an experiment that Nienaber and
I don't know, but
it worked.
Wanted to do. Yes, no, but they were trying something. They might not do it the next game. They might not do it the next game. They might not do it the next game. But they might do a game to get into the semi-final or the final. They might. Yeah. It's just you got to try these things. As I said at the outset, these are warm-up games. Don't forget. And coaches and the staff, they're trying different things. They're trying different positions, different connections, different interactions. So I wouldn't. It's experimentation at its finest. Put it
just on that, Peter. Right? Couldn't you imagine what would happen in the media in South Africa if, say, for argument's sake, against Ireland, that they threw 7 forwards and it bit them in the ass? They lost 2 backs, and then they lost the game. Couldn't you imagine what would happen in the media after that?
Oh, they'd be calling for fucking everyone's head. They'd be fucking ringing the Pope. They'd be fucking saying prayers. They'd be fucking madness going on.
I don't think there's a coach going into that World Cup that would do something that risky because it's a massive gamble.
Do you know Erasmus? This is Erasmus we're talking about. The most fucking off his nut job. If he shakes his head, you'd hear a fucking rattle.
If there's anyone going to do it, it'll
the
be
man's
him.
fucking nuts. Well, there you go. That's it. It's like fucking David Campese when we had him on here. In his playing days, he was thought of as being like mad. Campese doing this. It was like Serge Blanco back in the 80s, running from his own try line. Jesus, mon Dieu, who does this? Blanco does it. Campese does it. You got to try these things. So sometimes the Mavericks win. Sometimes they lose badly.
Exactly.
There you go.
But you got to ask yourself the question: would he do it in a World Cup?
Would you do it in a World Cup? I don't know. That's risky. Anyway,
Do you know they reckon this Quagga Smith like can play on the wing. He can play anywhere. They reckon. So he's kind of he's one of these hybrid players that has the ability maybe. But I wouldn't fancy seeing him as a full back. Like, you know, if they were to lose a wing, he could probably get away with playing as a centre because he wouldn't have as much running to do.
Probably.
But
if he was full back, what would any team do? Fucking kick the ball to him constantly.
just
Yeah.
kick the ball,
Anyway, folks,
keep kicking the ball from one side
we're-
to the other, and he'll fucking soon see how good he is. Then.
we're on the hour mark. Oh, Peter Martin's back. Go on. We have one more game to talk about. Ireland Samoa. Pete, go on. Go.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back again. I was just going to raise one. Like Mike, you were on about how we fronted up to them last November. I suppose there's two things I'd say about that. The first one was last November we didn't have 2 or 3 matches beforehand coming into that, so that was a once-off. The other thing then as well is that, you know, that we didn't, you know, and the South Africans will cry and moan and say that they didn't have a kicker that day, and I think that they left 9 points on the pitch, and we won by 7 if I remember correctly. So I think it's a little bit disingenuous to say, you know, that we will match them up front. We have to have all fit bodies. I think all our best 15, our best 23 available to have a good chance of taking them. The second point I would make as well is that the style of rugby that South Africa play is exceptionally simple, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. You know exactly what they're going to do when they come at you. It's big, heavy carries with offloads. What we play is a far more intricate game, and as you rightly pointed out, we've got very, very skillful players, we've very nuanced style of play as regards, you know, the out the back runners. Our players are the premium is on decision making. You know, Mike Catt and Farrell have set up our attack and defense, and it's all about decision makers. And as pure footballers, I'd say that we're better probably than a lot of those South Africans, because it's just basically crash bash. It's ugly rugby, highly effective, but that's my take on what that is. There was just one other question I was going to ask Brett, if he doesn't mind. The issues we've had.
Oh, Jesus Christ, is he gone again?
Rose again, yeah.
You better write the
He's
question
gone
down
again.
there, Peter.
Okay.
Right on cue.
No, I'll tell you what, we're way over the hour. Just a brief kind of 60-second thought. Matt, I'll go to you first on Ireland v Samoa.
Look, I mean, it wasn't a great game by any stretch of the imagination, but it is what it is. It's a warm-up game. They were faced with a very well managed and coached Samoan side. They had clearly done their homework. They went out to prove a point, and they did, absolutely. I am just really impressed with the grit and determination and the resilience that Ireland showed to actually grind out that win like a number 1 team in the world would do.
Okay.
End of.
Okay, Mike. Briefly, as you can, because we're way over the hour.
First half, Samoa dismantled our scrum, and our line-out was a shambles. We lost 5 line-outs in the first half. It was pleasing to see that we actually had the ability to turn that around completely in the second half. Herring came on. We won all our line-outs. We won all our scrums. We won 2 or 3 scrum penalties. They dismantled us in the first half. Now we like Matt just said, we turned that around, and we found a way to win games. We have found a way to win a game that we didn't necessarily play well in. But
Okay,
that's
fair enough. Okay,
and
sorry, Mike.
I'm wondering. See the lineouts we've lost throughout the 3 warm-up games. Is that a ploy? I'd ask, is that a ploy from our coaching staff to not show our hand, to show maybe a weakness that somebody tries to exploit? Are we not showing our hand as such, like, you know, as a team going into the World Cup? Because I don't think we've shown. I think we've shown very little.
We've shown very little. Brett, Ireland v Samoa. We're way over time. Just a brief synopsis.
Look, they found a way to win. I agree with that, but there's a few little issues in that game which kind of concern me. Who's our replacement fullback if Keenan goes down? Because
Jimmy O'Brien can play there.
well, Jimmy O'Brien struggled under high ball for most of that game. Like really, really struggled. There is moments in attack where he becomes the second receiver, and there's at least, I'm going to say 4 or 5 times I watched it back again where all he had to do was just hold his feet and actually make the pass. And we've made significant yardage. We might not have scored, but it would have set up the next attack. And he struggled in that catch pass. So I'm kind of wrestling in my head about, have we found the answer?
Mac Hansen. Mac Hansen has been outstanding under high balls the whole entire career.
I think he is, but that's why I'm a bit worried that he didn't actually play 15 in that game.
But he has for Connacht, doesn't he? He's played 15 for Connacht.
Yes,
I think he could. I think he could seamlessly fit in there if we needed him. Keith Earls has played full back on several occasions.
Surely the 3 warm-up games was the time to actually do that, is to have a look. So that to me is one concern. Second concern is the line out, and the line out penalties were given away. Like, we need to have a little look at ourselves. If you go through the try we scored and watch the positioning of our man joining the Mauls, we're joining players that are going past the ball. Now, we get away with it in the warm-up game. We're not getting away with that in the World Cup. It's just not going to happen. And I just think we're being a bit smart for our own good. The back lifter in bad positions. And now I've noticed we've changed to a front lifter now doing the blocking. And you're going, lads, are we really going to go there? The referees have, for this World Cup, they'll have a dossier on your penalties that you've conceded in the last 10, 15 games. They will see that. Any referee worth their salts, they'll have video footage of all Ireland's penalties they conceded. They'll know exactly what they do at the breakdown. They'll know exactly what they do at line-out time. And my concern is we are putting ourselves under the microscope with the referees and with World Rugby for our dark arts around the line-out. The line-out we won the Samoan line-out with 2 minutes to go. Remember, the game's in the melting pot here.
Yeah.
The interference in the air by James Ryan, where he's actually got his hand straight and slapped the guy's hand. So the Samoan guy comes up to catch it with 2 hands. This hand is now gone. It now bounces off his hand, and it's a turnover, and we kick the ball down the pitch. Now, they're only small little things, but that to me in a World Cup, that's a concern. You have a line out. You have a line out against South Africa in the last minute. Are you going to play silly buggers and give away a penalty where they draw the game or win the game? You just don't contest the line out, Brett, depending on where it is. If it's 5 out, if you're defending 5 out. No, but it's something that's now come into our game in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And we're giving away the dumbest ass penalties you will ever see. You give those penalties away against South Africa, they're going to kick into the 22, and you're going to have to defend them all for your life.
We didn't give that many away in the Six Nations, though.
Oh my God, you're Mike, would you stop talking, please? We're nearly an hour and 10 minutes. We're 10 minutes over time. Danny Brosnan, your quick thoughts on Ireland v Samoa.
Right.
Mike.
Shut up now.
Go on, Danny.
All I'll say is thank God I was wearing the brown pants. That's all I'll say.
All right, listen, folks, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we had some huge technical issues. My thanks to Peter Martin, who just left us, Matt Boland, Mike Reedy, Danny Brosnan, Brett Igo. We will certainly have you on again. We really enjoyed your company. Thank you very much, Brett, and guys, thank you. Good luck.